the major staff of the projects, like the directing staff of the projects. Actually, I think we'll just level right around in here-ish. This is probably fine. So anyway, even though Nakamura was on the staff at Enix, and he made one previous game with Yuji Horii, they didn't have enough programmers to take this on all by themselves. So Nakamura started his own company on the side called Chunsoft. And at this time, Chunsoft was extremely small. They only had about 2 or 3 other programmers other than Nakamura. But they're the ones that did all the programming for this game. And it's called Chunsoft because Nakamura's name in kanji is the kanji for middle and then the kanji for town, I guess, or village. And the kanji for middle is pretty common. Like, for example, China is actually called the middle country, so when you see that kanji, it often just means China. Or there's a gambling game called Mahjong, and one of the tiles has this character on it. And the Chinese pronunciation of that character is Chun, or at least in Japan they say it is, because when you play Mahjong you have to call that tile Chun. So because he liked Mahjong in high school, like, his nickname was Chun, and so he decided to call his company Chunsoft. And also an interesting story about one of the 3 famous people that made the game. Koichi Sugiyama was actually already a pretty famous composer by the time Dragon Quest was made. He was famous for making a lot of television jingles and just writing some classic music. And he also just liked video games. And I think he was playing one of Square Enix's earlier games. Probably one of the well, they call them adventure games in Japan, but they're not really adventure games. They're more like kind of choose your own adventure games. And they had one called oh, what was it called? Oh, the title of the game slips my mind. Papotia? Something like that. Anyway, he was writing into Square Enix with his thoughts on the game, because they were encouraging customers to write in, tell them what they think of the product. And he wrote in with his real name, talking about the game. And the head of Enix looked at this, and he's like, wait a minute, isn't this that guy that writes all those television jingles and stuff? And so he wrote back to Sugiyama and said, hey, are you the guy that I think you are? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, well, first of all, thank you very much for playing our games, and second of all, we're making a role-playing game for the Famicom, and we're looking for someone to make some good music for it, and we'd be honored for you to come on the team and compose the music. But the catch is, we're only a few weeks away from lot check, which in video game terms means you're about to turn in the final game into your testers, and they give it the green light or red light saying if it's ready to be released or not. But he's like, yeah, sure, I'd love to try that. So he came on, and I guess according to legend, he sat down and he came up with the theme for the title screen within 5 minutes, and he wrote the rest of the score within 2 weeks. And it was a big success, and then he just kept on coming back. For all the other games. yeah, it really is amazing that it worked out like that. And one of the reasons, I told you that Yuji Horii was a writer for Jump, but he wrote it under that kind of pen name, right? I think it was like Yutei or something like this. So people didn't make the connection right away. So what he was able to get away with, because it was, the age without any internet or anything, so people got all their information through magazines and word of mouth. So since he wrote under kind of a pen name on Jump, no one made the connection that he was... Yeah, in 5 minutes he made the iconic theme. Yeah, that's so crazy, right? And it's so good, especially when you hear it all orchestrated and stuff. Like, wow, what a crazy, amazing job. So anyway, so Yuji Horii is working for Jump magazine as a writer for a column, and he has his own games, and they often have news about Famicom games. At this point, Enix only had the one port of one of their PC titles to Famicom, which was the first project that Nakamura-san and Horii-san worked on together. But he was able to advertise his own game in the Famicom column and had all kinds of specials in Jump magazine about what Dragon Quest was and what made it good and how to play it, and kind of got people interested in it. Plus, that was how he made the connection with Akira Toriyama too. If he wasn't working for Jump at the time, it's almost for sure that he wouldn't have gotten Akira Toriyama for the art. He wasn't as famous as he is now at that time, though. I mean, Dragon Ball was a pretty big thing, but it wasn't Z yet. So Goku was still like, a little kid. And he was famous, but yeah, he wasn't, that was his first run of his first comic that was really taken off, so... Well, we're getting a lot of gold men here, and we've almost made back the money that we lost from fighting the knight, so that's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and heal up a little bit. Yeah, another thing about this game, the reason that I want the shield so bad is that defense isn't a basic stat in this game. Leveling yourself up doesn't give you any more defense. So you can only get more defense through better armor. Right, yeah, of course he had other titles before Dragon Ball, but I don't think he really became super known until he started writing that. But yeah, when you level up in this game, there's only 4 stats that you can improve on. Yeah, no defense stat. Yeah, how hardcore is that? There's only 4 stats in this game that you can improve. One of them is strength, one of them is agility, one of them is HP, and one of them is MP. That is it. That is all the stats in this game. There is no base defense stat. yeah, just for fun, let's go ahead and pop up the stat screen here. So on the top we have level 15, then we have power, then we have speed or agility, then we have max HP, max MP, then we have our attack stat, which would be strength combined with the weapon power, and then we have defense, but that is based solely on just on your armor. And then we have what we're equipped with right now. And there's only 3 spaces for equipment in this game. You have a weapon, you have your main armor, and you have your shield. So that is it. I mean, of course, there were other RPGs on computers at the time that had a little bit more of a complicated system for weapons and armor and that kind of thing. But remember, they were trying to make this easier for normal people to get into the RPG genre. Also, they had memory constraints. This was made in 1986 in Japan, and the Famicom had only been out not even 3 years when they made this game. So when you look at like those old 1983 Famicom games, and you look at this, I mean, it's a world of difference. Most of those original games were just a single screen experience in most cases. I think Super Mario Brothers came out just right before this, actually. So that was the other thing. It was kind of a big gamble for Enix to put out a game like this, because after Super Mario Brothers came out, of course, that was the rage. The scrolling screen, kind of action type game. That was what was selling. And, you know, here you are with a really kind of slow pace, a little bit of a simpler graphical interface, but a more complex and difficult game. They were really unsure of how well it could sell. But Nakamura was really into wizardry, and Yuji Horii was really into Ultima when they were working on a previous title together, and they thought it would be a cool thing to bring this to a normal audience in a way that Japanese people could really get into. Alright, almost back to just 10,000 gold to go. Oh, what's Dragon Quest II like compared to this? Ah, that's a good question. So, in those older games I was talking about, like Wizardy, even in the very first game, even though the graphics were really primitive even compared to this game, you were able to have more than one person in your party. Basically, that entire game was just you were in a town, you got your party together, and you went into the dungeon, and you just kept on fighting, coming back to town, healing up, fighting, gaining experience, and just getting to the bottom of that dungeon. And that's all that game was. But you could have more than one person, and Yuji Horii really wanted to have more than one character in the party for this game. But because of the memory constraints of the carts at that time, they just couldn't do it. They could only have one enemy and one guy on the screen. Plus, this was one of the first games that had anywhere near this amount of text. So they had to deal with that. And a year later, by the time they proved that this kind of game could be a success, they were able to put some more money into the carts so that they could hold more memory.